Cloud. All right. I'm screen sharing. Oh, I'm recording, I believe, to the cloud.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, it says recording. So it's got to be recording. Okay, very cool. All right. I guess I will get started. Um, hi everyone. Welcome to the first of our two-part webinar series called What to Expect When You're Expecting, the election edition. So with this first part of our two-part presentation, we will be talking about voter preparation, education, and outreach, basically steps and things to do before election day. Yeah. So basically, first step, introduction. So I will introduce myself. I am Hannah, I use she, her, hers. I'm a junior at Bowdoin College. And I am the Civic Engagement Coordinator for JMJU, which is JustME for JustUS, an environmental nonprofit statewide organization, mainly youth led. And so, yeah, I am putting on this presentation for you guys. Next slide. Thank you. And then this my lovely assistant Grace, who is helping with the slideshow. Okay, so this is just we're just gonna roll with it. We're just gonna roll with it. We're gonna do our jobs and it's gonna be great. Um, so first things are voter registration. So I'll go over the basic rules that I'm sure you all know, but basically, who is eligible to vote? So to be eligible to vote in Maine, you must be a citizen of the United States, a resident of Maine in the municipality in which you intend to vote, and you must also be at least 18 years of age, although you can pre-register to vote as early as 16. You just cannot vote until you're 18. There are a few different ways to register to vote, one of which is through a paper application, which you can either print off of the Maine state government website, which is the URL is there, or you can request it to be sent to you via mail. Either way, when you're finished with it, you can submit it and send it back also via mail or drop it off in person. You can also register to vote in Maine in person as late as election day. You can actually register to vote on the same day that you might vote. So there are a few different ways to vote, especially this year with COVID-19. There's been a large emphasis on early and absentee voting. So some of the basic deadlines are to request your absentee ballot. The deadline was actually today, October 29th. So I hope if that's how people are planning to vote, you did that already. And to return your ballot, you can, it needs to either be received by mail or it can be returned in person. Either way, both of them have to be received or returned by November 3rd at 8 p.m. November 3rd being election day this year. To request an absentee ballot, you are either eligible to do that via a mail ballot application, which is a paper application that you can fill out and send to them, and then they will get your request and send a ballot back to you, or you can also request an absentee ballot online. Absentee voting is a little different than early voting. With absentee, you get sent your ballot and then you have to send it back. With early voting, this actually can happen in person and you can just go vote early before election day. In Maine, these dates are between October 5th and October 30th, and the date and hours vary based on where you live. Next slide. Thank you. If you are voting in person, if you voted in Maine before, no identification is required when you go to vote. If you're a first-time voter, that registered by mail, and when you're registering, if you didn't provide any identification, you may need to show one of the following documents when you go to vote in person on election day or early voting. These documents could include your main state driver's license, your main state ID, or some sort of documentation such as a bill or bank statement or paycheck, which shows your name and address in which you are registered to vote. For voters who do not have identification, either with them or on them or at all, you still may cast a challenge ballot in the state of Maine, which basically means you are casting a regular ballot that will be counted. However, if there were to be an event of a recount in your county, or um, one of the candidates challenged the results based off of the number of challenge ballots, your ballot may be rescinded. So something important to highlight this election season is obviously the presence of the COVID-19 pandemic, which we all are in. And that is going to drastically affect the way that not only people are voting, but also if you're voting in person, what you might see or can expect there. So obviously the biggest change is being aware of differences this year as opposed to prior years with your respective polling location or times. You can go on the main state government websites to review and see if your polling location has changed or what the times are in which you are able to go vote in person on election day. But some other basic guidelines to follow or things to be aware of is obviously social distancing, trying to remain 6 feet apart from people if you're waiting at these polling locations. Obviously, you should be wearing a mask. You should be prepared for longer lines since they are only going to be letting a certain number of people in each building at each time. And then obviously, of course, use hand sanitizer before and after, which they should have available there. And some places are also going to be providing pens, but instead of a normal year where you would just use the same pen as everybody else at whatever station you went to, they will be asking you to dispose of your writing utensil after usage this year. So the next thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about was voter intimidation. And for those of you who don't know, basically what voter intimidation is, it is following a federal law stating that no one can interfere with anyone else's right to vote, and no one can in any way impede or infringe on whomever a person is intending to vote for. Basically, they cannot take away, and no one can take away your right to vote if you are eligible, and no one can try to convince you who to vote for. So some examples or methods that voter intimidation might appear is somebody questioning you about your citizenship or your criminal record or any other qualifications that are necessary to vote. People could be spreading false information about voter requirements, such as an ability to speak English, which is not a requirement to vote, but that is frequently a common misconception. And it also could include displaying any signs about voter fraud, trying to make you think that you are doing your ballot wrong or that your vote will not be counted, or just obvious and direct harassment at polling locations. This can often be tailored more towards people of color or different ethnicities and things like that at polling locations. So now that you have information as to how to register and where to go to vote, what else can you do or what else should you be aware of? So for further resources on bipartisan candidate information, you can go to the League of Women Voters website or the Bipartisan Policy Center's websites. And both of these organizations are bipartisan nonprofits. And on their websites, they have toolkits and brief descriptions and overviews of each candidate's platform. So if you are unsure of who is going to be on the ballot or what they might stand for, I urge you to go look at these basic kind of one-pager glance overs to get a feel for who you might want to vote for. And if you still have questions about any voting rights that you might have or things that you're not sure about when it comes to election day, You can go to the protectthevote.net website, which details a lot about voter suppression and ways of voter intimidation that you should be wary of. And you can also go to the ACLU hotline, which is also on their website, and it is the American Civil Liberties Union. And they have set up national and statewide hotlines for you to text or call if you have any questions. For example, somebody asked me the other day if they were able to wear a t-shirt displaying that the candidate that they were going to be voting for. And I urged them to text and ask this hotline, and they got an answer to their question within the half hour. So I think that's a really great resource. And then last but not least, after you've completed your civic duty of voting, what else can you do? How else do you stay involved? I know we only have about 4 days now until the election, which is crazy. And I know a lot of us want to be doing as much as we can and are feeling a lot of anxiety about this election. So what are more things that you can do? Well, you could be a poll monitor, or a poll worker. Basically, both of these things are working at the polling locations in your various towns, helping people with any questions, or just ensuring that there is no voter intimidation going on physically at the polling places. You can also sign up to canvass, door knock, or phone bank with a bipartisan organization such as JMJU, or with a candidate campaign of your choosing, to try to urge people to get out the vote and do their civic duty. And if you do it for a candidate campaign, explain why you are supporting that said candidate. You can also sign up to vote triple at the polls, which basically means you would be standing outside a polling location, and anytime somebody walks out from voting, you first of all obviously applaud them for voting and thank them for doing their service, but then ask them if they could take the time to text or call 3 of their friends or family members and check in on their voting plans and see if they have registered or intend to vote. And then last but not least, obviously, the most obvious thing is you can just constantly be checking in with your friends and family or people in your community about their voting plans, and just trying to get out the vote. And that's all I have for you guys. Thank you for coming to the first part of this webinar. We will be having a second session detailing a little bit more of post-election anxiety and how to handle whatever outcomes they may be, hosted by MYCJ on Monday. I think it's November 2nd, also at 7 p.m. So
yes, please come. Good job. I'm gonna stop.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Yeah, this was really great.